What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today we are talking about dual sports, dual sporting, and everything related to this somewhat misunderstood and fairly unpopular style of motorcycles. So I've been riding motorcycles for a long time, and I try and always keep a dual sport in the garage just because it's so different than every other type of motorcycling. So today we are going to discuss so much. First off, what is a dual sport? What is dual sporting? We'll discuss in detail dual sport bikes and kind of the full spectrum of options that you have there. It's a fairly vast, fairly wide array of motorcycles. We'll talk about the pros and cons of dual sporting. There are both. Of course, we're gonna go out and take a ride on our dual sport so I can kind of show you firsthand exactly what this is all about. We'll discuss just how different these bikes are and how different dual sporting really is compared to every other style of riding. And at the end, all said and done, we'll summarize everything we went over and come to a conclusion and find out if this dual sporting is something for you. So this is gonna be super fun, guys. These dual sports are near and dear to my heart. You know, I've done this dual sporting for a long time, and I don't really know anybody else personally who has. So maybe I'm the crazy one, but I can't wait to tell you all about it. So let's rip into it. So first off, what is a dual sport? Well, so dual sports are a style. They are a category of motorcycle that is legal to be driven on road. They are designed to be able to commute in urban areas, and they are also designed to be capable of off-road adventures. Now, when looking at the whole spectrum of dual sports, you're really gonna have one end of that spectrum be your very off-road focused bikes. You know, designed to just conquer all of those off-road obstacles, take jumps, you know, they're lighter, maybe more powerful. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have the dual sport motorcycles that are better at on-road commutes. They're more comfortable down the highway. Maybe they have the electronic goodies with the heated grips, the cruise control, ABS, different things and features that would make those on-road commutes more enjoyable. And then you have everything in the middle. So this is going to be a style, a class of motorcycle that has such a broad spectrum. There is so much variance from that off-road end all the way to the on-road end. And there's just not going to be a one-size-fits-all. There's not going to be one motorcycle in this category that's absolutely the best for everyone. Besides just the bikes themselves varying so much, people riding their dual sports and the environments that they ride them in, what you're going to do with that bike, that also varies just as much as the dual sports you can buy. And so what's the best bike, the best option for one person could be literally the worst option for another person for the style of riding that they do. Now, the dual sport motorcycle that I have currently is going to be this 2024 Honda CRF 450 RL. And when we look at the spectrum of dual sport motorcycles to kind of place this bike in there, it is certainly more towards that off-road focused end, which makes it a great example for me to show you today. You know, having a bike that is capable of all of those off-road things is going to be helpful versus if I had a very road-oriented dual sport. You know, I couldn't show you as many things off-road. So this bike is going to be a great example for us today. Now, I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that the Honda CRF 450 RL is the best dual sport. You know, it could be the best for someone out there, depending on what they like to do. Maybe you have a bunch of off-road excursions near you. You have a short on-road commute to get to that spot. So this motorcycle could be great for somebody in that scenario. Now, as you look at all the bikes under this dual sport umbrella, it seems as when you go to that off-road side of the spectrum, you know, the bikes get lighter, they're more powerful, suspension systems are better, they have more ground clearance, you know, just everything that you would want in a strictly off-road setting. You know, those bikes are going to have those qualities. Now, as you start to look to the other side of the spectrum, as far as these bikes that are very good at touring, they're very comfortable on-road, a lot of times what comes with that is going to be more weight, higher engine displacement, so more power. You know, it makes your bike more enjoyable. On the highway, you have plenty of power to pass. Your bike isn't completely wrapped out and screaming at 75 miles per hour. You know, they'll just be wider, have bigger saddles, maybe have spots for luggage. Like we said, all of those electronic goodies. Maybe they have windshields. And I have definitely seen riders take those very on-road focused, you know, some of the larger CC BMWs, KTMs, the Honda Africa Twin, the 1100, you know, even a Tenere 700 by Yamaha is just bigger and bulkier than something like this Honda 450. But I have definitely seen riders out there who can take those big bikes through more obstacles and through crazier terrain than I could get this 450 RL. So a great rider will be able to dance with any motorcycle and really be able to just push the limits and get that thing to places you never thought possible. And there's a reason for that. That is something that you see a lot in the dual sport community, which I'll touch on in a little bit here in more detail. Now, as far as the pros and cons to dual sports, we'll go through the pros first. The number one pro for me, I mean, I own all different types of motorcycles. The super sports, the nakeds and standards, the cruisers, dual sports, scooters, mini motos. But one of the things that I love most about dual sports, they're easy to work on. And it's just because the nature of the beast. I mean, we're going for a capable motorcycle here. So it's kind of more stripped down. It's more minimal, you know, you only have what you need, not really a bunch of extra gear and features. And so just looking at this bike, for example, I mean, the engine's right there. You know, to get to the air filter, the spark plug, change the oil, adjust your suspension, tighten up your chain. I mean, there's just so many little things that are so much easier on this dual sport than they would be on a cruiser or a street fighter, a super sport. And a bike that is easy to work on, a bike where you can do all of the maintenance and all of the upkeep yourself, makes your ownership of a motorcycle so much more enjoyable. Now, with there being such a vast array of dual sport bikes, sure, there's going to be bikes that require more frequent maintenance, and there's ones that have more stretched out maintenance intervals. You know, our bike here has more frequent maintenance intervals, with this being more off-road, kind of more high-performance focused, but it's so bare bones and so stripped down that going through all of those frequent maintenance items is very easy. It's very straightforward. There's nothing to it. You know, doing little maintenance and upkeep items on this bike can take, you know, 5 to 15 minutes. So the minimalistic style of dual sports just makes them easy. Now, the second pro to dual sports, and I actually tell a lot of people this, I use this line a lot, but only 1% of the entire world is paved. So if you have a motorcycle that was made for the street, right? Your hog, your touring bike, your sport bike, they can all be a ton of fun, right? But with a dual sport, having that off-road capability, suddenly exploring that 99% is an option. And I don't know about you, but I want to explore that 99%. So just as far as options and what you can do, suddenly your horizons, I mean, they just open up so much as far as possibilities, where you could go, what you can do, the type of adventure you want to have. I mean, you literally have unlimited options with a dual sport, whereas an on-road motorcycle, Well, where did the roads go? Because that's the only place you can go. And there's a lot of great roads. There's a lot of scenic places that you can absolutely travel. You know, there's awesome roads that I love to rip, you know, on a sport bike, a cruiser, but you can still go on the roads with dual sports. You know, you're not missing out on that 1%. It's not a either or that you can cruise the off-road or the on-road. You get it all with this platform. So that to me is one of the biggest perks. It's one of the biggest allures to dual sporting. Another pro about dual sporting is that dual sporting, the action, the activity itself, manufactures the best riders. It absolutely does. Just everything that it entails. You will just be forced almost in some situations to learn that motorcycle, learn what the capability of a motorcycle is. You know, you will get to situations and scenarios that just force you to learn superior throttle control, expert level clutch control, how you can throw your weight around and get that bike through obstacles into different places, what the weight of that motorcycle, of that bike can do for you. You can learn how to really use your suspension and suspension systems to your advantage. It will just work you as a rider and build so many skills. You'll just be forced to do so many things that an on-road motorcycle in any scenario on-road would never have you do. Another pro to dual sports that I think a lot of people never think about and never consider is going to be the safety factor. I literally think that dual sports are the safest category of motorcycle, hands down. And why is that? It's because along with the capability that these bikes can have, it lets you have unlimited avenues for escape in a bad scenario. Say a car is coming up behind you and they are not stopping, you saw that in your mirror, you can hop the curb and get out of the way so you aren't a pancake. You know, there's an unexpected obstacle in the road, you know, maybe there was an accident right in front of you. Just your avenues for escape, like every place is an option for you to go. Whereas on a street bike, I mean, you're kind of confined to that lane, or I guess that direction of traffic. You know, on a Harley, on my sport bike, I can't hop a curb to get out of the way, you know, so I have to evaluate my limited number of options. Do I try and go on the left side, right side? And on a dual sport, it's just get out of town. Get out of the scenario, just completely leave it. There is no median, there is no curb, there is no speed bump, there is nothing that could impede where you can go. And that capability that these bikes have, you know, that has saved my butt so many times. So that's why that is absolutely worth mentioning to me. Now, another allure to the dual sport style cycles is that even in urban settings, when commuting around town, say you're on the highway even, with these bikes being designed to be very capable off-road, some of them, and with them having that more minimalistic equipment, it just makes the overall bike so light and so nimble. Dual sport motorcycles, for the most part, are a joy to drive around town. I mean, just your turns, weaving through traffic, everything that you would do is just so effortless. It's so easy because the bike is so light. It's so narrow. You have skinnier tires. A lot of dual sports just handle like they're on rails when you get to a paved urban environment. So it's funny to a lot of new riders who sometimes ask me what style, what bike should they buy. You know, I'll talk to them and ask them what's important, what qualities they want in that motorcycle. And a lot of times when they say, oh, they don't want it to be too powerful that they're scared of it. They want it to be light. They want it to be nimble. You know, they don't want to feel like they're having to muscle that bike around for every single thing that they do. You know, there's definitely some times where I will recommend a dual sport and recommend switching out, say, the 50/50 tires that it came with more of an on-road worthy tire. You know, and a platform like that is so perfect for that person. It inspires so much confidence, and then that person is learning faster, they're much safer, they do have more options on things they could do, where they could go. You know, suddenly gravel roads are not completely terrifying. There's a lot of reasons why dual sports can be excellent first motorcycles. Another great perk to dual sports is that at the end of the day, they're just cheap. They're all around cheap. They're cheap in a lot of different ways. Now, of course, you can find more high-end dual sports, right? Some of these BMWs, the KTMs, maybe the Triumphs. I mean, even this 450 RL, you know, is more expensive than some comparable bikes, but they're just cheap, you know, for your average run-of-the-mill dual sport. It's gonna be cheaper than that cruiser, than that naked, than that sport bike, more often than not. It's gonna be cheaper for insurance. A lot of dual sports get really good fuel economy, so as far as your cost at the pump, it's nil. And they're just cheap to maintain, you know, and there's a few different reasons they're cheap to maintain. Well, one, you'll probably be doing all the work because it's just so easy. It doesn't even really make sense to take your bike to a shop. A basic toolkit can do all of the maintenance and upkeep I need to on this bike. And the parts are cheap. Now, another pro, and one of my favorite ones, and it's something that you'll never know, you could never anticipate until you get a dual sport, but it's that it's so empowering. It is so empowering. Once you get a dual sport, you start riding it in different places, through different terrain. Like we said, dual sports make those good riders. It does build your skills exponentially faster than every other style of motorcycle. And you'll build skills, you'll build abilities that you never could have on other types of bikes. And once you really start to experience that and explore those options, it just gives you a feeling of like, wow, I think I can go anywhere. I think I can do anything on this motorcycle. And you're 100% right, you absolutely could. So that is one very unique feeling and emotion that dual sports will give you, and I have not found that on any other style of bike. Another pro I have written down is community, and that's a huge one. It's so funny when it comes to these dual sports because the dual sport community, you know, there's one just like there is kind of the Harley groups, the sport bike and the crotch racket groups, the mini moto grom guys, the gangs of scooters. When it comes to dual sports, that dual sporting community, dual sporting in and of itself just attracts that enthusiast. It attracts the biker who wants to go further, who wants to explore more. And that is just a common denominator. You know, of course, there's different types of dual sport riders out there, just like there is with anything else. But that is a common denominator that I've noticed amongst every dual sport rider. They're just driven, they're motivated, they're prepared, they're independent, they're smart, and they want to be the best that they can, you know, and they want everyone to be the best that they can. Dual sporting attracts just a good group. Well, and now that I've talked it up like the greatest thing in the world, I will go over some cons to dual sport motorcycles, and some apply to other dual sports more than others, but the number one is gonna be comfort. Typically, you're sacrificing a little bit of comfort in order to get the capability that these machines have. Now, on some of the more road-oriented dual sports, you may not be sacrificing much comfort, maybe none at all. Like some of those bigger KTM and BMW adventure bikes, you know, the Honda Africa Twin, like I said, some of the Triumphs, those can be extremely comfortable bikes to cruise. You know, some of those I would not bat an eye at cruising 1,000 miles or much longer. But you know, once you start working to that other end of the spectrum, you know, say with our CRF 450 RL right here, comfort is awful. I mean, it's the worst. This is actually the least comfortable dual sport I have ever ridden in my life, but it's one of the most capable. So it's tough. And there's of course things you could do to a more off-road focused dual sport to make it more comfortable. You know, I could get different pegs that had rubber inserts, I could get different grips, I could get a different seat, I could get a small windshield, and it all wouldn't be very expensive because like we said, these dual sports, everything about them is fairly cheap. But the comfort, that is the main one, is typically you're sacrificing that just a little bit in order to get this more capable, light, adventure-worthy package. Second one, it's almost similar to comfort in a way, but it's road manners. You know, the lighter a motorcycle is, the more off-road focused it is, typically it performs worse, is less comfortable, just a little bit more white-knuckled on the road. You know, our bike here weighs 291 pounds. When you're cruising down the highway at 70 miles per hour on a 2-lane and a semi goes right past you, that blast of wind really just jars you. It really rattles you a lot more than, say, on a 500-pound Africa Twin. But when I get to my off-road destination, this is what I want to have over the Africa Twin. So in the road manners, just like the comfort can vary a lot, and it seems to be on that same spectrum that the more off-road focused it is, the worst road manners it will have. And I don't want to over-exaggerate that to you guys. You know, I'll absolutely still ride this bike around town. You know, I'll buzz it up the highway if I have to. It's not like it's some death sentence or it's undoable. When you compare it to other road bikes out there, they have poor road manners, comparatively. Now my third con, my third negative point about dual sports, which some people aren't going to care about this in the slightest bit, but I will just mention it so nobody is confused or misled. But guys, you will get 0 girls. You will get 0 girls on your dual sport. Dual sports actually, in my experience, have been repulsive to the ladies. And I don't completely understand why. I mean, there's definitely basic things, you know, it's not a crotch rocket, so it's not fast and flashy and cool. It's not a Harley, so it doesn't have that thunderous sound and that superior comfort. You know, maybe it has to do with it being more off-road focused or having that capability. Maybe the ladies just think you're still a child since you like to play in the dirt. I'm not completely sure, but I am sure that you will never pick up a lady on your dual sport. So anyways, just wanted to mention that. The last con I'll go over, and this one is really important, but it's just that with you having a dual sport style motorcycle, with it being a motorcycle that it's designed to do both things, right? The off-road and the on-road. These motorcycles are gonna fall into that jack of all trades category, right? I mean, they're literally gonna do everything well. Do you need to run up the highway? Do you need to go to the grocery store? Are you commuting to work? Do you want to have off-road adventures? Do you want to cruise trails? The options of what you could do are vast. It's a lot. But you think of on-road stuff, you know, maybe a naked style bike, a sport bike, or some cruiser, obviously, would just be better in town. It'd be smoother. It'd be more planted, it'd be more comfortable, you know, and let's flip the coin there and talk about off-road stuff. Of course, you'd be more capable if you just had a full-fledged MX bike, you know, just like a 250 or 450 motocross bike. It'd be more powerful, it'd be lighter, everything about it would be better off-road than a comparable 250 or 450 dual sport. And that's something important to mention because I think that stops a lot of people from really getting a dual sport or even thinking about that twice, ever pursuing it. You know, yes, sure, that Harley would be more comfortable on the pavement, cruising on the road. And once you get to the off-road stuff, you know, everybody who's like, well, I'll just get a 250 motocross bike, you know, I'll throw it in the truck and that'll be way better for my off-road stuff than a dual sport could ever be. You know, based off that power, based off that weight. And sure, I'll agree with you there. I mean, how could I disagree? And that's a boat I myself jumped into at one time. You know, I had sold my dual sports and I thought, you know what? I've got a pickup. I'm just gonna get an off-road. Like I got a CRF 250R because of that power, because of that lightweight. And I thought, you know what? I'll just load it up in the truck. Yeah, it's not street legal, but once I get to my off-road destination, this is what I'm gonna want, and I can just do more with that platform. And that's all true, I was not wrong there, but what I didn't think about was everything that goes into that process. Anytime I wanted to cruise those, I had to go out, I had to pull the bikes out, load them into the truck, make sure everything's gassed up, ready to go, maintenance is up to date. Then I would commute, figure out where I was going off-road, go there, and then I'm unloading all the bikes, make sure everything's good to go. We'd rip around off-road, have a grand old time, but then you gotta go through all of that stuff again. So then you're loading up all the bikes, cinching everything down, making sure you got all your supplies. You have to commute home. Once you're home, then you're unloading the bikes again, taking out all the gear, all the stands, all the everything you brought for those. And while I had a bike that was more capable once I was at my off-road destination, everything that went into that made it less enjoyable than if I had just taken my dual sport. Whereas for the dual sport, go out, turn the key. Well, and so I think that is absolutely enough talking. Now we gotta jump on this thing. Let's go take a ride on a dual sport so I can kind of walk you through the experience that you can have on one of these things, or to give you a taste of what it's like. Obviously, we're not gonna go climb mountains. I am in Lincoln, Nebraska right now, but there's a couple things I'll show you. So we are gonna gear up. We are gonna hit the streets or hit the dirt, probably both.
All right. We are ready, and with the dual sport, we're not loading anything in the pickup. No, the adventure starts right now. Right from home. That is just so nice. That is so enjoyable, and you almost have to experience the other. When you're loading up the bikes, you're driving to the off-road area, you're unloading, then you get to ride, then repeat the whole process back over again. Whereas just to get on the bike, right at home, turn the key, adventure begins. It's not even comparable, the two experiences. So here we go. And did I mention that wheelies on dual sports are as easy as cherry pie? And the other thing about dual sports is that, wow, we're getting squirrely. They're just so capable, you know. I mean, they were made for off-road capabilities and adventures that a lot of times I find myself taking, you know, gravel roads, for instance, whereas if I was on a street bike, I would never do that. But these bikes feel so at home off-road, you know, due to a lot of different things, due to the lightweight, due to the tires, due to the suspension. And so you'll find that you have a lot more avenues open at your disposal than you would have on any street bike. Now, not that you can't go on a gravel road on a street bike or a motorcycle, a Harley, a cruiser, crotch rocket. But I never think twice on the dual sport, whereas you gotta think long and hard on a street bike if that's a smart decision or not. And the thing too, you know, is we're just cruising on the dual sport, like anything is an option. Anywhere I look that I want to go, I know I could go there. Like, you know, oh, say we had some crazy terrain off to the right or something like that. Oh, I popped down a few gears, jumped the ditch, now we're in it. So it's just stuff like that, you know. Oh, make our entrance back on the road, jump back through the ditch, drift back on the road. You know, there's just your freedom. You know, a lot of people ride motorcycles because of the freedom factor. I mean, you just feel so free. So take that feeling and amplify that by 100. Now you're starting to get the feeling of what it's like to be on a dual sport. And now we're to the highway. Does it stop a dual sport? No. We were just in the field, and now we're on a high-speed paved road. And it's totally fine. Here we go. Still commuting to our off-road destination. When I go over the interstate, I always give them a wheelie. Well, now, and actually something I forgot to mention is that the dual sports, you know, there's a lot of bumps and washboard here, so I stood up, and that's something I forgot to mention, is that dual sports are one of the only style of motorcycle that you can just stand up on. I'm just standing up, going down the road. So in that, actually, it lets you stretch out a little bit. Being able to just stand on your motorcycle, my arms are straight. That's super nice. So it gives you a little break from the uncomfortable seating position that some of these bikes can have, you know, especially this one where it's so off-road focused. Well, and I'll pop another gear and we'll kick up the speed. You're not any more unstable or anything standing on your dual sport. If anything, you have more control when you're standing up because you can work with your weight and the bike's weight a lot better. But anyways, where I'm going with all this is when you're standing up, just like we are now, and you have no peripheral view of the handlebars, of the speedometer, of nothing. You feel like a body just flying through the air. I mean, look at your view right now. You have no view of any part of the motorcycle. We are just a person rocketing through time and space. And it is so awesome. It is the most freeing feeling. I just feel wind on my whole body. It's so silly to say, but you'll never understand until you do it, I promise you. Now here's a great example of one of the cons I talked about. I don't know if you can see it, but the wind is pretty gusty right now from my right side, and so I'm just slightly kind of angled, you know, as we're driving, because I have a dual sport here that's more off-road focused, and so it's lighter. Of course, you want that lightweight when you are off-road, but when you're off-road, yeah, get a windy day like this, and it just does. It drags you, it kind of pushes you around. You know, you may be going down the road just that slight angle on, because your bike is so light. You know, it doesn't take but 15-20 mile per hour wind, and you are going down the road a little bit sideways. Now here will be a great example of that safety thing. So we're going down the road, we're going at 55 right now. Somebody's in front of us, I can't stop in time, okay, but I can swerve to the side and avoid the whole situation completely. We had an avenue for escape there. So stuff like that is just, always have that in your back pocket, as I'm trying to go off-road now, but always have that in your back pocket. And the more you ride, the more conscious of that you will be. You know, the idea of that initially, of veering off the road, can be very unnerving to someone who hasn't ridden off-road a lot. But the more dual sporting you do, the more off-road riding you do, suddenly that transition will just seem like second nature. You will not mind going on a dirt road like this at, what, 70 miles per hour almost? You know, going off-road at 70, yeah. Get a good dual sport, and that will seem so comfortable. Woo! Woo! Jumped that whole road. Whoop! And jumped that berm, drift back on the road. Like nothing. You know, and that's one thing that the dual sports will incorporate that no other motorcycle sport or no other motorcycle style of street legal motorcycle, that is, that's nothing that you'll ever do. You know, on any other style of motorcycle, if you are flying through the air, well, most likely you're enjoying your last couple seconds on Earth. But on a dual sport, nah, you just found a good little jump, that's all. Now, the off-road riding that I am doing here, any dual sport motorcycle is capable of doing. I promise you that. And I specifically came here because it's fairly mild and tame. And maybe you don't think this is mild and tame, but I promise you, any dual sport motorcycle, even some of the big like adventure touring bikes, 1300 cc, I would rip through all of these trails that we are doing right now, and it would do it effortlessly. You know, with some of those bigger bikes, you are certainly getting more weight to throw around, but you learn to work with that weight. You get the weight of that bike working for you versus against you. Oh, we got some trees down. Yeah, we've had some windstorms and ice storms come through here. Since it's still March, you know, we still get those cold weather little bits come through. Wow, right over those trees and brush. I'm telling you, any dual sport motorcycle out there, I would absolutely take through all of this. Never hesitate once. Woo! We made it down to the river. Well, I think this rock is gonna help us with our little kickstand here. There we go. Ba-doop.
Oh, and look at us down here. I mean, we brought the bike right to the water's edge. Look at this. The river's flowing. Oh, that's so nice. Can you do this on your Harley? Can you do it on your Harley? No. No, you can't. Oh, the seagulls are going by. Woohoo! Just awesome. The things that you can see and the places that you can go. We're not done yet. We haven't even started. Let's keep riding.
Well, and I forgot to plug back in my microphone when I took my helmet off, so let me go back to where I was and show you guys what I was trying to. With a little narration will be helpful. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up in here, over there, through the sticks, up the hill. Let's take the valley. Whoa. This is the one that we didn't cruise through on the way down. Equally good. Where to now? How about this way? And that way. And now this way. Woohoo! Hop the log. Oh yeah, baby. Can we cut through there? I probably could have, but now I'm going this way. Woohoo! If you think it, you can do it. Alright, back to the beach. Let me get back to where I was and what I was saying. Alright, so that's where we were parked on the beach, right there. And I pedaled down this way just to see what the rest of it looked like, because this always changes so much. The water level goes down and up, you know, 10, 15 feet sometimes. But I was going over here, navigate through the sand and the mud, but there's this little peninsula in the sand. Totally didn't know this would be there. So that was awesome. And we were kind of just seemingly out in the middle of the river. So like the places like this that you can go, I mean, this is awesome, dude. Great spot right there. Post up all afternoon. But then I spun around and then we kind of trekked through the river, actually. Oh, the places you can go. This is awesome. And then you just book it on out or to wherever you want to go next. Woohoo! Nice and slow so we don't get mud and water completely covering us. Whoa! Oh man! Are you guys figuring out why I like dual sporting so much? Whoa! Whoa! And sometimes you go down, but that's part of the fun. And when you go down, you know, say you layer over off-road, I mean, what, you're doing 15, maybe 20 miles per hour, or less than both of those, and you go down in the dirt or the sand. I mean, it's not like crashing a motorcycle at interstate speed on the pavement. You'd be in rough shape here. You dust off your arm and you get back up. But there's a few little climbs right here. They're really small, but they're certainly steep. And I would not bat an eye. I would not hesitate for an instant to take a 1200cc adventure touring bike up these. I absolutely would. And that's what you guys will figure out as well if you jump into that dual sporting. You tend to look for stuff that you don't know if you could get up. You don't know if the bike is capable of that. And that's where the fun is. Pushing your limits. Pushing the machine's limits. Learning, growing, getting better. It's addicting. And it's so gratifying because the results are instant in some cases. Like as soon as you do something and you figure out how to do it, you've got it. You've got it. Now you know that. Now you can do that. Or whatever it is. Like throwing your weight around. Learning how you can use the bike's weight. Where traction is going to kick in at. Where you will lose traction. How much power you need in certain settings. I mean, there's just so much to learn about motorcycles. And stuff that you could never learn on anything but dual sports. I mean, you want to learn everything you can from on-road riding. You want to learn everything you can about off-road riding because that knowledge of off-road riding, how much traction you have in gravel, in sand, in whatever it is, wheelies, baby! Woohoo! It can all translate. It can all save your butt down the road. It's good knowledge, woohoo, to have in your pocket, baby. Oh, man. This bike is a ripper. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to blaze through trails like that back there. If you want to just putt along a dirt road, let's slow it down. Why are we going so fast? Let's slow it down. You want to putt along a dirt road, along a scenic trail at under 25 miles per hour? This is so enjoyable. You might start the day ripping trails like we did, and it's so nice to be able to finish the day some days like this. You are not on a one-trick pony with these. you get a dual sport and you've got a pony with a lot of tricks up its sleeve. Woohoo! And down through the ditch, yeah! You gotta like toss your weight and then bounce the suspension on the bike. And these are just things you learn. And all of it just makes you a very capable rider at the end of the day. Construction site. Oh, we got traffic coming, so I'll zip off the road really quick. Go through the ditch in the valley. Oh, the boys are working today, so we don't get to rip up that spot. But if that just kind of shows you, I mean, with the motorcycle being street legal, you know, and not having to load up and change spots, change areas, you could hit 5 different off-road spots in the time that it would take you to just go to one with an MX or with an off-road only bike. Well, and we'll see if we get some respect from this other motorcycle. Oh, it's a stunter. Nice, dude. So, he don't even know that I'm the wheelie king around these parts. We might have to show him right here. Oh, he gave us a rev. Oh boy, we got it. And he has a stunt cage and everything. I don't think he's the wheelie king. He knew it. He loved it. Well, and once you've been dual sporting a while, then you see curbs like that and you're like, would I even feel that going over it? I don't know. Probably not. You know, because the idea initially of hitting stuff is fairly scary or intimidating, and then you start to find out just how capable these bikes are, and that's when that empowerment starts. That's when you start to get those feelings of, holy cow, I could literally go anywhere and do anything.
Alright, so we just got back. I was actually out there riding for 2 hours. It was hard to bring myself to come home. Just so fun to be out there and be ripping through whatever you want. Honestly, wherever you look, you can go. But I knew we had to finish the video, so here we are. And I am telling you that everything that you saw us do off-road, I mean, that is mild stuff, and I would feel comfortable, completely comfortable doing that on any dual sport out there. Smaller CC, smaller bikes, bigger stuff, larger engines, heavier bikes. Like, trust me, that was just incredibly mild compared to what you can do on these machines. So now we got to kind of summarize everything and come to a conclusion about these dual sports. So the summary, I mean, they're great. You know, I think it's a smart decision for a lot of people. You know, all the reasons we went over, that they're simple machines, they're cheap. Even if you only operated them on road, your avenues for escape for a bad situation, I mean, they're so nimble, they're so light, it makes them very enjoyable to cruise in town. You know, for any of those off-road excursions, I mean, the adventure can start as soon as you walk out your door. There's just a bunch of things about this category of motorcycle that I just really like, and I think a lot of people, the majority of people, would really like. But the facts are that not many people will experience these. Not many people are drawn towards the dual sport category of motorcycle. I have owned, well, every category of motorcycle and multiple examples in each category. The super sports, the nakeds, the standards, the cruisers, the bobbers and choppers, the dual sports, the off-road, strictly MX bikes, the scooters, the mini motos. But of all the motorcycles I've owned, my favorites by far are the dual sports. You know, if I could only have one motorcycle, it's absolutely going to be a dual sport. And it doesn't even really matter what that dual sport is. You know, it can about be any dual sport because I know what I can do on that. I know where I can go on that. I know the experience, the feeling that that gives me. And just less is more. You know, less is so much more when it comes to these dual sports. You know, a 400cc street bike is less than thrilling. A 400cc dual sport is the time of your life. So they're just different. They're just very different at the end of the day. But if you're willing to explore those differences, the reward is great. The reward is extremely high for dual sport motorcycles. So at the end of the day, it is what I think is just the best category of motorcycle, and there is so many different reasons for that. I mean, they're the most capable. You can do the most with it, right? You don't have to stay on the paved roads. You get to explore that 99% like we talked about. I mean, they're cheap to own. They're cheap to maintain, cheap to initially buy, cheap to insure, everything about them. Cheap, cheap, cheap. And they build you up. They build your skills and improve your riding so much, and to a level that no other style of bike could. But having a motorcycle that can do it all, that you can take anywhere, that you can build your skills in every environment, and it's almost not even a choice of yours. If you get a dual sport and you ride it on-road and off-road, you're gonna become a better rider. Like, there is no scenario in which you don't. Dual sports are just for the purest of motorcyclists, and I don't know, I say that because it does incorporate so much, and there is just too many dual sports out there for me to ever say that one is better than all the rest. So I could never do that. They're all kind of fun in their own way, no matter what dual sport you're looking at. So if you were even slightly curious about this style of bike, yes, I think they're the best, and it is a great category of motorcycle, different than all the others. So I think we've rambled on about this enough. That's about all I have to say. I mean, I could go on about dual sports for hours if you haven't gathered that. So anyways, comment if you guys have any questions at all. Otherwise, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time.